All right, we are here with Dan Mckay from Finless Skateboards Co. to have a quick talk about what's going on at Finless, where he's headed, and how he is helping out on the surf shop, skate shop, retail floor. But first of all, Dan, how are you?
Good. How are you doing?
I'm doing good, man. You are my first interview in a very long time, so this will be a fun experiment, and we are going to enlighten people with your words. So,
Let's do it.
really quickly, you've been doing Finless skateboards for what, 4 years now? Really started in your garage with your son when a skateboard broke. Then when COVID hit, because you were a tour manager, couldn't go out on the road, and you're like, let's focus on these skateboards. And in that time, in the very beginning, you had the CCMD Cruiser and the Duke. How were some of those early days during COVID?
Well, yeah, so we started making boards in the backyard with the kids. I think it was 2015 or 16. And it just became a hobby of me and the kids making these boards, pressing the boards in the backyard during the summertime because it was up in Montreal. And then we just started this little pretend company, it was just like a fun thing to do. Made one for my son, then made one for my daughter, then made some for the kids at school. Not really, doing it seriously, but just for fun. And then yeah, when the lockdown happened, obviously everybody was, we couldn't tour anymore. I was looking for something to do, and I kind of chose the hardest option, which was to start a company and take that project that we were doing and turn it into a real company. So I did a lot of research and development, a lot of research, a lot of learning about, making skateboards, but for real. Moved into a wood shop, got some really rad people to help out on the machinery to make custom presses and drill presses and all that stuff. And then it was like full on from then on because there was no turning back, and it was good because it was showing the kids, like, hey, do something you like, do something you love. And when times are hard, we'll figure it out. And here we are today.
Well, here you are, Dan. And speaking of times being hard, I mean, you really went for it during COVID when it was hard to get product. I mean, I know trucks were hard to get. I'm sure wheels were hard to get. I'm not sure about wood, if lumber was hard to get because, you handcraft the boards. You don't have a factory making boards for you. You're actually getting the wood and, handcrafting it in your warehouse. But going from that time when things were hard to get, then COVID stops. And now there is an over saturation of product in the market and people undercutting and people blowing things out. I mean, for lack of a better term, the funnel was clogged. But I've watched a lot of companies go away, and you're still here. Not only are you still here, you've released the Umazuma, the Performance Nose Rider, the Malibu. Those are just three of the boards that you've released, during that downturn. How did you navigate that time? And what kept you inspired to keep pushing out new products?
Well, you're right that it was hard. It was hard in the beginning for supply because I was the new guy. I've never done this. I spent the past 25 years in the music industry, so learning all the ropes, and you've helped me a lot with that, and making those relationships. But then, yeah, putting out boards. We're a small batch company, so although we can provide, it was kind of like the perfect way to get into the industry because we're a small batch, going to retailers, doing a little bit online. But what really kicked it off is we actually sold our first skateboard, a CCMD. I think we sold a CCMD and a Duke to Robert at Harbour in Seal Beach. And I went to meet him, and he showed me his classic Banana 66 surfboard that looks amazing. And he's like, can you make this for us, but in a skateboard? And I was like, let's figure this out because we got to do this. And that kind of prompted the idea of like, wait, this could be a thing. because yes, everybody was overstocked on wood, skate shops, surf shops, everyone. But we kind of leaned on the private label stuff and approached these surf shops, notably the heritage ones that have been around for 50, 60, 70 years, and started recreating their surfboards into skateboards and doing a private label program that we call by Finless.
Yeah.
And it's basically the same thing. So it just kept us busy, kept the guys in the shop making boards, and it's great. And that's what kept us busy in the last couple of years, for sure.
Yeah, and I want to get to the crafted by Finless in a little bit. But it's good to know. I mean, that conversation that you had with Robert, not only sparked the crafted by Finless idea, but sparked your inspiration, motivation to keep pushing with your inline boards, produce new boards, because then you also released the 78, which
Yep.
is a gorgeous board. And then, I might pronounce this wrong. You did a very limited run of boards with, is it Vantanya surfboards?
Yes.
And you did a very limited, I might have only been one with I Am Sloth, who took the Duke and did a limited art piece for you on the Duke. So
Yeah.
speaking of this limited edition stuff you've been doing, you just released a board called the Home of the Pacific. It's a gorgeous board. You
Right.
only made 10. Tell me about that board.
That board, again, like even back in the day when me and the kids were making these in the backyard, the inspiration was always the heritage of surfing. So doing limited edition stuff kind of tied into that, the handcraftedness of it all, honoring the surf shapers, the Greg Knowles, the Rich Harbour, the Hobie Alters, et cetera, and collabing. I don't know. I feel like the community is the most important thing here. Ventana, we did that as a limited edition. We only made one. I think we made two. And they make gorgeous surfboards up in Santa Cruz, partnering up with artists. That's real. It's tangible. It's real. It's artists, whether it's woodworkers or visual arts or anything like that. It just makes a lot of sense. The Home in the Pacific board, that was just me having fun and wanting to highlight or honor, I should say, the old 1920s and 30s Pacific Home System surfboards that didn't last very long, but those boards are so beautiful. Those surfboards are so beautiful. And I wanted to kind of just recreate that and see what we can do on a small scale and just, put them together and it's inspired by those old boards. I wanted to keep it old school. We made it a plank. It's a flat board, 3/4 inch solid lumber, basically. And I was iffy about it at first because that's a hard board to ride. And 10 minutes into riding that thing, it's fun. It's a lot of fun. There's no kicktail or anything, but yeah, so that's just along the lines of highlighting that the history of surfing.
Gotcha. Yeah, no, it's a beautiful board. You only made 10.
Yep.
I mean, gosh, I wish I had one. Speaking of, I had one. I forgot. I literally have my CCMD. Right.
Yeah. What number is it?
This one is number, and this isn't my original one because I have number 24 at home. This is number 96.
Oh,
So,
right.
one thing I think that is awesome about your handcrafted skateboards is just like a surfboard on the stringer, you write the dimensions, you write the number, and you sign it in the
Yep.
skateboard co. So yeah, this board right here is number 98. And at home, up in my closet for safekeepings, I have number 74. I'm sorry, number 24. Now, one thing that I'm super excited about, one of the main reasons that I wanted to jump on this call with you is the, crafted by Finless, which, as you mentioned earlier, inspired by a conversation you had with Robert Hausen at Harbour. But since then, I mean, you've made boards for Bunger, you've
Yep.
made boards for Matador, you've made boards for Hansen's, you've made boards for Dewey Weber, you've made a board for Esteem. I know it's several of these boards sold out the instant they came in. Some of them, correct me if I'm wrong, Dewey Weber, half of those were sold before they even got them. Um,
Yep.
I don't know if you're allowed to talk about what you have coming up in the future, but tell me more about the Crafted by Finless um, program, the shops that, I'm assuming you're kind of targeting a couple shops that have inspired you. Maybe they had old surfboards in the past that you're like, these are beautiful, I'd love to remake them. Just like you did with Harbour for the banana board. Give me a little insight on Crafted by Finless.
I mean, it's essentially what you just said. It's uh, a lot of our influence is those brands that have been around, those mom and pop brands that have been around for decades and are still around and are still the reference. And working with those brands is just it's for me, it's exciting just to design these things because we're looking at, an old surfboard. We did the Yater's spoon and that wedge stringer, and figuring out how to do that in that style with the wood veneer that we do on top and on the bottom, keeping that branding and just honoring that board from back in the day. It's just a lot of fun. We do the same thing as we do with our boards. They're all handcrafted. They're mostly limited edition. We put a lot of love in it, and that's the program there, so we're talking to other brands as well right now. We'll see how that goes, but these boards, they go fast. They go fast. Dewey Weber, like you said, they sold 50% of the order before we even started making the boards, just by the digital mock-up that I designed to replicate the Performer. So yeah, we do a lot of most of these we do long boards, very long boards, 46-inch long, with some rocker, super comfy ride. And I have to thank Robert again, because he's very detail oriented, and we did a lot of tests with the first one to make sure that this is not only a beautiful board but a functioning board. And so we've prototyped a lot of different ways to do this, and went to some longboarders, teams and stuff like that to try them out and change it up and figure out how this is going to be not only a gorgeous board but a functioning one too.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Are there any models coming out that you're allowed to speak of?
Uh, I, I mean, this Friday, keep an eye out for what's going on at Hobie. We're
They're
just
getting more boards in this week, huh?
maybe.
Maybe check out Hobie. You can check out Hobie Dana Point. You can check out Hobie Laguna. You can check out Hobie San Clemente. Check out all the Hobies. They might have them in
Check
there.
them out online. Yeah.
Check them out online. Now, speaking of checking out Hobie, you know, we mentioned these boards so fast, and you're replicating a piece of history, and allowing people to own a piece of that history. How do you feel Crafted by Finless impacts our surf shops, skate shops, brick and mortar? How do you feel that impact is, and what are your hopes for it in the future?
I mean, I think it's important because it highlights their history. It kind of revamps and brings it back into the highlight, of what that brand is and what it meant for so many years. And then, and then I think it's great for shops to have their own branded stuff. That's kind of the way things are going in retail. It's the private label. So, I mean, we're stoked on this because that's, we love doing this. We love partnering up with these brands and putting these boards on their floor. I think it's important. I think it's important to also, everything today is so like AI and like made in China and, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Back in the day, these guys were shaping their boards in the back of their shop, and some of these shops are still doing that. And everything goes so fast right now. I think it's important to go back to these are made in our backyard. They're made here. They're handmade here with love. And I think it's just a genuine thing. And it ties into the highlighting of their history as well. You know what I mean? I think it's important.
Awesome, man. Well, super stoked to have you on. if you guys want to learn more about Finless Skateboard Co., their Instagram is Finless Skateboard Co. Website is probably finlessskateboardco.com. Is that correct?
Finlessskateboards.com.
At finlessskateboards.com. And check them out. Hobie, I know Hobie will have some hopefully this Friday. Harbour, I think, has a couple boards in stock currently, the banana model. Maybe you can get a Hansen's board. I think Matador still has some in stock. They go fast, but if you're lucky, maybe they got one in stock. Cool. All right, Dan.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me.